Well, I teach and do research on communications law, and I've had the opportunity to spend time with graduate students thinking about communications law and ethics. And in fact, last winter semester, I had the chance in a graduate seminar to spend some time with these graduate students thinking about Aristotle and his idea of virtue ethics. And one of the things that Aristotle said is that you become a virtuous or moral person by looking at examples of other virtuous and moral people and then trying to follow those examples. And that's one of the things that I think is great about a BYU education. It gives you the opportunity to focus on character building as well as your intellectual pursuits. And with these graduate students, we looked at some specific examples in BYU's history of moral people who exhibited good character. And one of these was Karl G. Maeser, one of the early leaders of Brigham Young Academy in the 19th century. And Maeser had a student at the time named George Sutherland. Sutherland was not a member of the church, but had moved to Springville from England when he was a toddler with his parents. And so Maeser, as a young teenager, showed up at Sutherland showed up at Brigham Young Academy and became a student of Maeser at the academy. And Sutherland later became a U.S. Senator and a Supreme Court Justice, and he always maintained throughout his life that he had learned good character from his father and from Maeser, more so than from anybody else. One of the experiences Sutherland related about Maeser was that as a student, Sutherland was not enrolled in the Book of Mormon class. And so this occasioned some teasing from his classmates because he was one of the only students in the academy who was not in the class. And when Maeser heard about this, he asked all the students involved, including the boys who were teasing Sutherland and Sutherland, to show up the next morning, and there would be a resolution of this case. And Sutherland was afraid because he had responded to the teasing by swearing at the other students. And so when he heard that he had to appear before Dr. Maeser, he was worried that he was going to be kicked out of school. But the next morning when they showed up, Karl G. Maeser said that the other boys who were teasing Sutherland needed to realize that it was no good for them to attend the academy if they couldn't live the 11th article of faith and allow other people to worship as they might see fit. And so he said that if I hear again of anybody teasing this young boy, then somebody will be kicked out of school, and it won't be George Sutherland. And so Sutherland remembered this experience. It was a very powerful experience for him. In fact, immediately after Maeser said this, Sutherland rushed up to him and said, "I'll take the Book of Mormon class and I'll do as well in it as any student." And he did do that. And Sutherland always remembered and wrote about Maeser even later in his life as a powerful influence of good moral character. And near the end of his life, after he had retired from the Supreme Court, Sutherland was asked to come back to BYU and to speak to the graduating class of 1941. In his remarks, he talked about Karl G. Maeser and Maeser's influence in teaching him about good character. And he said that the striking thing to him was that for Maeser, education was more important than riches, but even more important than education were things like good moral character, virtue, charity, and brotherly kindness. And this was an example that Sutherland had tried to follow throughout his life. So as we considered this example with these graduate students, it was a powerful thing for us to think about how we might engage in the type of behavior that Maeser did and that Sutherland did and build our own character. And one of the students in the class, one of the graduate students, did an excellent job working with me on researching Sutherland and Maeser, and we were able to publish an article in a peer-reviewed journal about them and their experiences at Brigham Young Academy. So this was a great opportunity for me in working with BYU graduate students because they're very bright and they're examples to me of good moral character.